I'm Karen LaPlant. I'm retired now from Hennepin Technical College after 28 years, but I am still adjunct teaching online for North Central University. And I'd like to introduce my co-presenter, Sheri Hutchinson, who's been an adjunct at North Hennepin Community College and is now the academic program director at Minnesota State. Sheri can say, and Sheri's going to be doing about half of this presentation, okay? So if you haven't seen the description before, what we wrote for the summit last year was, and got a lot of people there. We had 70 or 80 that showed up. And it was just learn how to design your course to engage your online students. Explore some of what we call high-tech, high-touch methods for supporting online students to make them feel engaged as part of their campus community. We found the best way to keep them successful is to make them active and a part of a community, okay? So we feel that we can improve your online student engagement and success rates, and we're going to do it by one or more of the following features or tools. These are things that either Sheri or I use, or both of us. So Zoom, which is our web conferencing tool that we use instead of WebEx. Atomic Learning, or HUNIT, is the new name. Cengage, which we've used MindTap and Pearson My IT Lab. ReadSpeaker, TED Talks and YouTube videos, and then Office 365 itself. There's many other ways, but we settled on just this 6 to go into a little more detail about and show you how we've used it and had it make a difference in our courses. So we're going to demonstrate how we have used these products in a variety of both blended and online courses at our various institutions, with the result of engaging students with access to rich learning applications. So we all want successful students, but to do that, we have to keep them engaged. And for courses that are a whole semester, it's hard to keep students engaged. It's much easier, I believe, when I do a 6-week summer class, or right now I'm doing an 8-week class. But when I do my traditional 15 or 16-week ones, like I said, towards the end, especially in the spring, when they've got cabin fever, you have to really work at keeping them engaged. So I'm going to start with LTI, some integrations and definition for those that don't know that. And then we'll get into web conferencing with Zoom, student self-help with Atomic Learning, publishers, LTI. We're going to talk about Pearson and Cengage. There's lots of others, and sometimes it's an ebook, sometimes it's much more than that. So Sheri will talk about that too, and she'll talk about text-to-speech with ReadSpeaker, which is wonderful, and TED Talks and YouTube videos, how you can incorporate them and be up-to-date, almost current event type of thing, and Office 365 widgets. So I'm going to begin with the LTI overview. And LTI, what we're talking about is integrating third-party, and in many cases for teachers, it's the publishers, and putting that content into an online course. This will help engage students to access for this rich learning through their familiar learning management interface. Somebody maybe should turn their microphone off. We feel it improves student success and retention rates by reaching diverse student populations, okay, if we keep them all inside their familiar learning management system. We did this, and we use Desire to Learn, but it works the same. Right now I'm using Boodle. It works the same in Canvas. It works the same in all of them, okay, or very similar, I should say. So the principal concept of LTI, which if you don't know what that is, it's learning tools interoperability. That's to establish a standard way to integrate these applications with platforms like learning management systems. The LTI enables tool consumers to connect and transfer information to the tool providers. Tool providers consist of commercial tool vendors that write and host tools for e-learning. You know, sometimes you might use a wiki, a simulation, or in our case, publisher content. Who is using it? Well, many learning management systems, including the most widely used in education across the world, already support at least some level of LTI. There's a growing list of application and content vendors. So this is some of the advantages to web conferencing that I feel using Zoom, which is what I trialed and have been using for 4 or 5 years now at Hennepin Tech. I do online office hours, and it's very easy for the students. I do online orientation for my courses. I do online advising for my students in IT majors. I do help sessions. I record and review it, and they can use it for review later. I can conduct a remote class if I want, and some people are. It's easy to use. There's a free demo license to try out before you even purchase anything. You can share screens quickly and easily. There's no downloads required, just a simple, fast plug-in. Students don't have to have a Skype name. They don't have to have Skype. It doesn't matter if they do it on their phone. It doesn't matter if they do it on their tablet, on their PC, on their laptop. It doesn't matter. It works everywhere. You don't have to have a real strong bandwidth. It works in the most rural areas. It just works really, really well. So it's become, I ran a pilot at my college about 5 years ago, and we had that for a couple of years. There were 20 of us, and then everybody else wanted it. So now the whole school has it, and they've gone to that because they tried to make everybody use Skype for business when we got Office 365, and that works fine for a meeting, especially if you're all in the same domain. But for students who are all out and about with different devices, like I said, it wasn't working, and they had enough grief that finally our school got smart, because there isn't really one web conferencing, in my opinion, that works for all schools for everything. So many schools are going to 2 or 3 different ones, one for administrative side, one for perhaps just strictly business meetings, and one for the education side. So keep that in mind. So I actually got Zoom, and I got an LTI link through Minnesota State. We got to be the first school that integrated it in my D12 courses. So it allowed me to use it, but it doesn't place anything in the course. So you have the capability of going in and adding it if you wish, okay, which I did. And the nice thing about it, the student logs in with their STAR ID, and once they're in the course, any link they click on that I've integrated, they don't have to have another login. They don't have to log out. When they close it, they're still back in my course. So it's like a one-stop shop. I keep them in there, okay? So I love it, and it's very reasonable. It's very reasonable, especially the new, I don't know if it's called site license or enterprise license, but anyway, the whole college got it. So now people don't have to be sharing licenses and stuff. The free version is nice, and and I did that for a couple of years. That lets you have, I believe, up to 25 users for up to 40 or 45 minutes for free, which is good for some things, okay? But other things, you may need an hour or two to actually get through it. And you want to be able to record, which the free doesn't do. But the free lets you try it. So anybody can go get a free license, try it for 40 or 45 minutes for up to 25 people, and see how easy it is. So this is how it looked, okay? So I set up LTI integration, okay? So I just went in and I had to add an existing activity called external learning tool. This is how we do it in D12. This is how we do it a lot, to add an external learning tool, okay? It comes up, and here's what it looks like here. It's a little down arrow and says Zoom. So what I've done is created a Zoom link to my own personal Zoom room, okay? So my students can click on there and be right in, okay? So it works that easy. They don't really have to do anything. Like I said, I've had students do it in their car, listening on their iPhone. I've had them doing it on their iPad. I've had them doing it from other parts of the world. It just works really well, okay? So this is all that comes up, and all you do is say, okay, and you're in. So it was really that simple. It took just a matter of a few minutes, a few seconds, and you're on. Students love it. I was with some other teachers from another school doing an accreditation visit, and one of the teachers said that night at dinner, he said, I got to be back early. I've got a lecture. And I looked at him, and he said, yes, I've got to get back. And I said, well, what do you use? And he said, well, Zoom, of course. He said, my college won't pay for it, so I bought it on my own. It's that important, and the students love it that much, which I thought was a very good testimonial. But he went on his own and just bought it because he felt for his online classes that they had to have that, and the school wouldn't or couldn't fund it. Okay, if there's no questions on that, unless Sheri, do you have anything you want to add to Zoom?
No, just that when I was professor at North Central, I had Karen kind of bring on board the college with Zoom and the students. I think that's what you were using for your meeting, or were you using something from the college?
Nope, I was using Zoom.
That's what I thought. so I didn't think I was off on that. And you had really good success with the students. In fact, so much that the course that she teaches, which is a web design course, this year she was asked to develop as a completely online course. And I would assume that that's how you're actually meeting with your students right now.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
And
use
so
it
for the students, it's
so
great.
it works really well in blended and hybrid courses, and it works in online. You could also use it for as additional help in a face-to-face class, for help sessions and stuff like that. So it's lots and lots of reasons you can use it.
It's great for like your tutoring type of sessions too, when you have tutors built in, or to also have something where students can do study sessions or group projects where they can schedule a live time, because I know that we have a lot of University of Minnesota students, which are more traditional, like North Central University students are. So those students like to be able to connect in the same time. It gets to be kind of difficult if you're doing like what we're doing, like Karen's in a different time zone. Well, it's only an hour, but you can imagine for some individuals it's difficult to use it only when you start stretching across the world. But having actually worked in a technology company that was spread throughout the world, that is exactly what we switched to, was Zoom. We went from, it wasn't WebEx, but I have to think about it. It was GoToMeeting, and switched to Zoom just because the sound quality, the reliability, and the connection, the speed. Actually, there was no drag where we were ending up with GoToMeetings that we couldn't even play sound across. So if you wanted to play a video or things like that, Zoom's been great for those types of things.
Yes, we had a faculty member that started the first community paramedic training across the country, and it's in smaller communities. They didn't have very good bandwidth, and he was using a very expensive. The school had built a huge, fancy room, and he had to sit in that room with himself, and it was can't remember the system. We spent a lot of money on it. Anyway, he did that for a year, and he wasn't real happy, and he heard I was using Zoom, so he said, well, why do you like it? And I said, my students like it. It's easy to use. I never have delay. I can see their mouth. I can give them the screen very easily. They can show me what they're doing. I can take over their screen and make a few changes, and they can watch me do the steps. I said, it just works great. Well, he got a free license and tried it the first week, and he called me up, and then he talked to his boss into buying him a license, because he had a 3-hour kind of demo lecture course. He couldn't keep the students engaged with what he was using, the expensive technology and expensive room. He said, I can do this from my office. I can't get the students off after 3 hours. He said, they're engaged, they're asking questions, and it just brought happiness to him, and it was the best thing I'd heard of. He said, it made it fun to teach again. The students were all engaged. Anyway, so, he was having trouble keeping them on, and all of a sudden now he couldn't get them off. All he did was change the way he was teaching it, the platform he was using. So if you haven't ever checked into Zoom, I would check into it. Try the free one, see what you think. Now we're going to go on to atomic learning. Atomic learning is similar to lynda.com, only it's more focused maybe in the academic world. Okay, it develops self-efficacy skills, not just technology ones, which it started out with, but now it's got things about how to cite papers, how to write a research paper, how to communicate, how to go to an interview, and then all the different technology levels. But if you get the link, and I got the link to work at Hennepin Tech when we got atomic learning years ago, and it seamlessly opens the content directly into the learning management system. There's tutorials and there's assessments. The assessments are new. Assessments will link into your learning management system. So it's not like other systems where, even other publishers, where if you're not integrated, you have to go into their site. You have to maybe export an Excel file with all the grades for an assessment, and then manually put them in your learning management system. Okay? So for years, we all did that through publishers and other things. Now, like I said, with everything being integrated, the student goes in one place, they click one link, they go in, their scores are back in their learning management system. exactly what they've done and how long they've been at it and what they've done with it. So it is a subscription base. And being in the IT field, a lot of the technology training was wonderful, and they keep it pretty up to date, and you can track the progress. Whereas if it's an external resource, we couldn't track our progress. It had to be inside the learning management system for me to actually track it. But it does self-help training and self-assessment. Okay. So this was my chapter 2 of a computer security class. Okay. So they have one called malware and other online threats. Okay. So I have the students click there. They go into Atomic Learning. They go through the module. This one didn't have a quiz with it or an assessment. So what I have them do, I make a Dropbox and tell them in their own words to write a paragraph about what they learned in that. Okay, so this is what I do many times. If they're watching a video or tutorial or anything like that, I have them put it in their own words because the student can actually sit and think about it and put it in their own words. Then I know that they've got something out of it. Okay, so I've tried doing discussions where I put a certain question in and try to have them answer it, and that works for some of the things. But for other ones, like I said, it works really well just to say, summarize this in your own words, one paragraph, tell me what you learned, what you think you'll use, or what you didn't know. I give them a couple of examples. Anyway, and so that's how nice it is. It's just clicks right there and you're in. When they click out of it, okay, when it comes up, they can hit listen, which Sheri will talk about read speaker, which they can have it listened or read to them. They can, if they know some of this, I put them all out there. I could have chosen to put one or two. I put all of the chapters under this module. But if they think they already know what it is, they could go to preventing. If they aren't using Windows 7, they can skip that and go to 8. So it's up to them which of these they want to go through. It's as easy as that. So I did create a learning portal for my school. And this is what I did. I just put our logo up. And so sometimes a student maybe wants to look at something and they're not in a class and they want to know how to write a research paper or how to cite or how to go to an interview or, some job skills or something. So I have a portal out there on our main school website and it comes up like this. Then they just put in their we've got it all just like Minnesota State has. We've got their star ID and their password. Okay. So we have it all integrated. Easy links. You can copy and paste links to do easy links to get it in there. It's very easy. And you can pick just certain topics if you don't want a whole module. Okay. So I did there. I just picked a digitally accessible campus. But there are some, like many of the technology ones, like Excel, do have assessments. Some have surveys in them. Okay. And so this has assessment results. You can go back to my training. They can do these inside a course or just have it available for when they need it to do some project that they're working on in college. Atomic Learning is changing its framework, and it's called HUNIT now. And so a lot of them are still out there in the old framework, which was good, but the new framework is really good. They have a part of it, which is a learn it, and then the students do it, then they share it, and then they prove it with an assessment. So as they transfer things over and create new ones, they'll all be on this new HUNIT online learning framework, which includes the learn it, do it, share it, and prove it. So it's more improved than it was even 5 years ago. This is probably in the last 2 or 3 years. So this is one of their newer modules that I use in my security class. I didn't have them share it, but I had them do the learn it, the do it, and the prove it. Okay. The prove it was actually a project that they had to do. Okay. And it turns out like this. You can see it's an external learning tool, and it comes out very, very, very nice. So what I do is I just pull this in there, and it pulls up the description so the students know what they're getting into. Of course, they're following along, hopefully, on their syllabus and course schedule. But it works really well. The students within D2L, so they've logged in, they've done everything in here. When they're done with it, they're still back in D2L. Keeps them motivated to keep working in the course, in my opinion. So, like I said, you can turn on certain things. So there was a couple I didn't care about that they did, and some I did want them. I wanted to go through security and data classification and hackers and crackers. The rest were up to them. So I can I can put check marks and show what is required. The rest is just recommended, okay? And you can do that for, when you get a subscription to Atomic Learning, you get it for however many students are at your college, and and then for free you get all the staff, which I really love because we were switching over to Office 365 and Windows 10, and so it really helped with the training of all the faculty and staff and administrators. When they had this, they could do on their own. We could give them short little training sessions, you know, an hour here or there, but they could go on anytime they wanted if they wanted more in-depth knowledge about, and they usually did for Excel or for Access. So the advantage again of an LTI, without the LTI, the student has to log into every learning tool separate, okay? Log in and log out and then back to their course. Instructors have to manually transfer scores, usually via Excel or another method, okay, if there's any sort of quiz or assessment. But utilizing the LTI app, students can now access all the course content, what I call a one-stop shop. That includes videos, assignments, and tests from links within their course. And that could be, because if you look at any of the resources from the publishers nowadays, they have tons of stuff that in the past, we may have been able to get a printed book and an instructor manual and maybe some slideshows, and possibly they had videos for the students that you could purchase. Now it's all included in there. The students pay for it, and we just have to pull what we want and link it, and it works fantastically, okay? And it's all up-to-date information. Now I'm going to turn it over to Sheri to talk a little bit about MindTap and her thoughts on it.
Sure. Okay, so again, as I said earlier, I now work for Minnesota State as Academic Program Director, so I have 30 colleges and 7 universities, and I work with them on getting their programs approved and making changes. So one of the products when I was still teaching that I helped faculty begin to use, so I've known Cengage since MindTap, since it first began, and I want to say, was that maybe about 2013 or so? And it was, you know, so if you haven't looked at it since then, initially it was difficult for faculty who weren't tech savvy to use. But now I'm happy to say that, oh, sorry, I thought you had something to say. I'm happy to say that it is much easier. And at the time, there weren't as many resources. Well, now if you go to the Cengage MindTap site, you can find tons of videos and podcasts and documents just for faculty, let alone all of the same materials that they have for students. So some of the courses, they are currently up to 1,160 different courses in a wide variety of courses that are available. And so it is the text materials with the quizzing options, with self-assessment, with self-quizzes, with study sheets that students can create on their own or use other people's study sheets, videos. It's all of the wonderful, engaging, interactive content that we've been wanting for years wrapped up into one package. And the nice thing is you can pick and choose what you want your students to see. So I went on before we did this just to kind of update you on how many courses they have, but they actually have them because I know that this is a very popular program at Hennepin Tech, and it's very near and dear to Karen's heart because her husband does this. They actually have a tractor trailer truck driving driver training book and a Cengage MindTap course that's available. They have barbering, they have massage therapy. So for the technical colleges that we have, there are very engaging and interactive ways that they can put a lot of their content online. Obviously, you're probably not going to do everything virtually when you're going to be creating a barbering program or a massage therapy because I can't give you a virtual massage, right? Can't do that. But to be able to have the content already created for an instructor, that takes, and in particular in some of the fields not every field you walk in as a new instructor and you really understand how to use open education resources, create your own content. A lot of times you really need, and a lot of the faculty, last year, in fact, at the HLC conference in Chicago, there was a tractor trailer truck driving faculty member, and that was one of the things that he talked about. And I had told him about the Cengage Mind Tap. Now, I haven't been able to check back with him to see, but I do know that as far as from the engagement, I had a faculty member right out of the gate with Mind Tap, put his business law course online, and he kind of went to me and said, nobody's asking any questions anymore. Do you think they're reading it? And I said, well, let's look at the dashboard. So we could go to a very intensive dashboard that's included. He could see that his students were engaging, that they were doing things way beyond what he was actually asking them to do. And then he had this really weird, at the end he said, there must be something wrong with it. The students got better grades. So he said, maybe I should add another assessment to it, or maybe I should add a different assessment. And what in fact, as you look at the research that Cengage has been doing with the Mind Tap, is it does reduce the number of questions because it is well written, and it includes all those things that any of you have gone into a course and taken a look and went, oh my goodness, I don't think any instructional designer has helped you. Maybe you need one to help you because there's no directions, there's no start here, there's no, like you can see with this example, chapter introduction, sometimes those are left out. Sometimes the directions that really help a student get in, not get frustrated with the course content, have all been added with this particular product, which then allows students to not focus on how do I navigate your course, but man, this is interesting content, and they go through it much more, and they're finishing the content. They're actually voluntarily doing some of the self-assessments. They're voluntarily creating study guides. And the great thing is, another item is students are able to use this on their mobile. So it's very mobile friendly. It, in fact, students are taking an entire course on, and we've known this for a number of years now, that a lot of students don't have a laptop and they are using their cell phones as their laptop, and they're doing all of their coursework from their phone. And the great thing about this is it is very mobile friendly, and materials are being added to it on a constant basis. They also have this excellent faculty support, which, like I was mentioning at the beginning, allows faculty to easily get in. And then, you know, say with this particular one, there's a communication climate and confirming messages. What if I already had a lecture or lecturette that I wanted to add, or a video of my own, and I wanted to add it to this content? The great part is you can customize this. And so rather than having the whole course, like when you have a course prep to do a new course that you're teaching, you can use this, and then you can focus as a faculty member on creating those extra golden nuggets to go along with this. So you might have some of your videos from another session or some other content that you want to add to it, and it's very easy to do that with this. Very easy to have your grading completed for you. It saves a lot of things in that, and then you can really focus on working with your students. So that's the Cengage Mind Tap. What do we have up next? Okay, so as you can see, it's one of those LTIs, and here's like what a student would see in the chapter 1. So this is looking at an interpersonal communication course, and they go through, they'll read it, they'll have some activities, they can just go through the course, and then the nice thing is that it bookmarks. So it lets them know, and it's seamless with that LTI, so they're not launching to another website. They're just literally going into your course, no matter what your LMS is, and they just continue where they were before. So that makes it great. So let's see what we have on the next slide. I don't have mine up. Oh, this is your Pearson My IT Lab, Karen.
Right.
This is,
Pearson
I think
has,
we're using this one.
right. Pearson has, my math lab, my different labs like that. I've used the My IT lab and I loved it. I piloted it one summer and I took a course that we normally do in 15 or 16 weeks and did it in 8. And it was going to be totally online. First time we ever did this. And even when we did it on campus, the success rate in keeping them engaged the whole semester was tricky. Anyway, so I did this, and instead of making things due every week, I made things due every couple of days for this 8 weeks. At the end of the course, it was the best course. The students loved it. 96% of them got an A or a B. I'd never had that in my whole life. I mean, at 25 years of teaching, I never had a short course do so well. They loved it. I mean, it was just, they knew it was going to be a short course, but had to get through the same content, and this really helped them. And they could do assessments, practice quizzes, and it just worked wonderful. And the students they just couldn't stress enough how pleased they were with it. Again, I linked it inside the course so that it looked like they were on the Pearson site, but they were inside of the D2L course, and they could get everything they wanted in there. And of course, all of these, when you link them, they all have the ebook capabilities too, which leads us into our new topic that Sheri's going to talk about, which is ReadSpeaker.
Sure. So we're going to talk a little bit about ReadSpeaker, and we're also going to go back and I'll mention about the mind tap. So one of the benefits of text-to-speech and the same thing with this Engage Mind Tap is you have the interactive, okay, so we've got some LTI. Oh, sure, we talked a little bit about universal design as well, too. You're going to provide multiple means of representation. So students can read things, same thing with the Mind Tap, or your regular content. So with the ReadSpeaker, which is a text-to-speech technology that has LTI capability going into your learning management system, doesn't matter which one it is. It's built into the Cengage Mind Tap. So any of the content that a student would go to, so I always talk about like the nursing students. A lot of them like to be mobile and they want to kind of listen to some of the long articles. That's what they're able to do with text-to-speech. So it's providing kind of multiple means of representation, different ways of presenting the content to keep your students engaged, to also take into account for equity in education, and also take into context the ability of your students. So for a lot of students, their preferences may be to listen to content, or maybe if it's content that they're unfamiliar with the way of pronouncing words, it's new terminology to them, then being able to listen to it helps that become part of their regular vocabulary. There's nothing like saying aluminum 42 times and not really knowing how to pronounce it. So same type of thing with the ReadSpeaker. It is also mobile friendly, so as the students are engaging with the content, they can be using ReadSpeaker to read anything basically on the web for them. And I know that there are free ones, but the free ones will not be able to interact within the learning management system. Plus, there's other options. So there is a text aid option where students could actually take any documents that you have from the internet, from one of your library sources, upload it, and be able to listen to any document. They could download it free. And downloading it as an MP3 allows it to become totally like offline. So then if a student is traveling, now the buses here in the metro area all have Wi-Fi, but if they were traveling in their car and they wanted to listen to some content or catch up on articles while they're waiting in line, they could actually download that content to be able to listen to it as many times as they want to and on their own, or maybe when they're watching kids' games or interacting wherever they are. They also have customizable voices as well. And so who who actually benefits from it. So I mentioned to you that nurses were one of the big groups that, as they were so mobile, so used to being on the go, and so used to auditory learning that to sit and read long text just didn't fit into it. So I've had a lot of them. Also students who have dyslexia, low literacy, students who are multitasking, because I bet you that in this session, none of you, you're all just totally listening to what I'm saying, right? I don't see any answers in the chat. So, multitaskers love this. Your type A students, so even though I talk about it being low literacy, what we've actually found is students who are type A's, read really well, interact, they're able to multitask and they're able to finish their work quickly by being able to listen to content and being able to interact with other things at the same time. A lot of returning adults too, as they're getting back their study skills. Obviously I mentioned before, like mobile users, and also English language learners. And of course it does have the benefit like the dyslexia and any cognitive or other disabilities. We're finding that it improves the self-efficacy for students when it is actually incorporated within the learning management system. So what do we have the next one? Nice thing with this, you can see at the bottom, so for an individual who needed to really enhance the size and wanted to be able to follow along, at the bottom you can see where it says the best in literacy support for struggling readers. You can actually increase the size. It's called enhanced text visibility. Increase the size and have it run across the bottom. You can have it follow along, or you can just listen. So as you follow along, if you are learning a language or if you have difficulty, one of the great things, Karen had a student when she had first incorporated this at Hennepin Tech, she had a student at the end of the semester that had said to her, she didn't know this for the whole semester, but the student at the end, and it was safe to say this to the faculty member, oh, I'm so glad that I have a read speaker because I'm dyslexic, and I just felt like I learned so much more from your course because I could see it, I could see the words as they were pronounced, I could listen to it. It helped her so much. So we hear that over and over again from students. I still have a student from when I was working with Read Speaker. I worked with them for about 3 years to help them develop their educational materials. And I still have a student that contacts me from time to time as she is progressing through a college in Michigan. Please, can you extend this? This is really helpful. And so I've had a number of students that stay in touch with me just so that they can have access to Read Speaker as they're working through their schoolwork. You can read PowerPoints, Word documents, PDFs, or it can also go on to web pages. And again, here we are in one of the courses Karen and I have taught before, your security course. A student can just simply open with Doc Reader down at the bottom. It'll open it up, and then they're able to go through and have that document read to them. So let's go on. And then TextAid is much like Kurzweil. In fact, there are colleges and universities across the world that have decided Kurzweil was too expensive and the Read Speaker was much easier for students. And the same thing with Read Write Gold. They found that this was much easier for students to be able to have access to. And then if you have the LTI, it can read the discussions and the quizzes also within most of the learning management systems, that maybe all of them at this point. I haven't checked on that, but if you're interested in it, you can contact Read Speaker. So the LTI kind of benefits, it gives that single sign-on. So when they go to the Mind tab or want to be able to use the Pearson My IT, it's a single sign-on for them. The gradebook luckily syncs, because we used to have almost 2 screens and kind of copy and paste from one screen to the other, or do an import with an Excel CSV. But now with the LTI, and a number of the publishers, it can go right to the grade book. Easy integrations, kind of a pretty friendly process, being able to incorporate all of the materials into your course and being able to customize them, put your own mark on the content so that you're using part of, say, other, the publisher's content and part of your content. And then, of course, as we continue to progress, there's more and more of these teaching and learning tools that are being able to be incorporated within the learning management system, and you probably could identify 5 that are over the top from what we've already talked about. What do we got next? So, how many of you have incorporated some of the TED Talks, whether you watch them in class or you do kind of a flipped classroom and have students look at TED Talks or some of the thousands of YouTube? I think that is one of my favorite things to both use for putting in classes and to, I don't know if we want to call it waste my time, but spend a lot of time watching YouTube videos because there's a lot of great content out there. The nice part with TED Talks, I was looking today. Now, since we are talking to higher ed, don't take any insult to this, but the top hit that I looked at today was how to break bad management habits before they reach the next generation of leaders. That's a January 2019 TED Talks. For those of you that are teaching some of the leadership and higher ed courses, there are a number of really amazing TED Talks, and you can get lost within TED Talks. My students have enjoyed that, and the same thing with YouTube. So while I was making a lot of my own videos before and flipping my classrooms with my own videos, and time is an essence, so I've been able to find a lot of great materials within TED Talks and a lot of great discussions, like as in the security that we were talking about earlier, there are a number of playlists within each of the disciplines that are fabulous to have available for your students, and you know that they're going to a place that they're going to get really good content. Let's see what we have next here, Karen.
Next is I'm going to talk to you about Office 365.
We love it.
Okay. My theme is Make Life Universal. Okay. Now, I don't know if all the schools, but I believe they all can, so I'm assuming they all will go to Office 365. And Office 365 can be in D12 anyway, can be a widget, can be integrated in there. And so that's what I've done, and we've done it for the school, and it is really nice. What it means is the students are in a course, and they can check their email in the course, they can do all sorts of things. And because Office 365 is free for students, as long as they're enrolled at a qualifying school, they can install Office if they want to on 5 PCs or Macs or mobile devices. Okay, all they have to do is check with the IT department, and it's just a wonderful thing for anybody in education. There's also parts of it, OneNote, where they can add video, text, use Whiteboard Lens. Okay, Office Lens is one of my favorites. There's the notebook they can use. Forms is the newest thing, and that either students or teachers could use. You could do your own really simple polls and surveys without any special software, only using Office 365 and Forms. Why they called it Forms when you can do polls and surveys, that I have no idea. So here's what my Office 365 widget looked like a couple years ago, and you could see that this was my Outlook. You could see the various things I had. You could see that at the moment, you could see what my username was, that I was disconnected. If I clicked on this, you would see even more. But you actually, we put it right in the top corner, so it's always there. So students can go in, check their email, do all that stuff. They could take notes with OneNote, put files in the cloud, anything they need to do right inside their course. Again, this kind of one-stop shop where you get them in your course, you get them logged in, and they stay in there, and they just do all their work in there. And we put directions down here for those that don't understand how to get into Office 365, but works really, really well. Okay, So when you click that down arrow on the last one, you see the main parts. You get Outlook, you get a calendar, and you get OneDrive. So this is the calendar that's in Office 365. Okay. And then you can also have it if you want. Look at your most recent emails, and you see just the kind of the subject line and who it's from, a little bit of the beginning. You set that however you want. But OneDrive, like I said, is great. They don't have to have a flash drive. They don't have to have room on the hard drive. They don't have to have a thumb drive with them. Like I said, they can use their OneDrive through Office 365. And they can do it on one device. Let's say they're on campus, and then they can open it at home in a browser and get to that same information. So they don't have to carry a laptop with them or a tablet or anything else. Like I said, all they have to do is know how to get into their Office 365 account. I like it that we have it as a widget integrated in our courses. It just makes it that much easier for the students. Again, that's just what calendar would look like. You'd see a little bit of what was set up, and then I think I did one with OneDrive saying I didn't have any documents there in it at that time. So you can actually click and see all that stuff. Works really, really well. Like I said, there's lots of pieces to Office 365. So like I said, OneNote is the digital note taking. Okay. Class Notebook is a little different, but OneNote would work for anybody. Most people are familiar with Word, Excel, PowerPoint. The only thing you don't get here, you do get Forms and Sway. Sway is still out there. Mix has been eliminated, but Sway is still out there, which is a kind of a PowerPoint on steroids, I call it, kind of a interactive canvas. But anyway, they can do all this stuff right within Office 365. Okay, so we like to think of it as inspiring, engaging, collaborating, because that's where the teams come in, and work. And you can do wonders in and out of the classroom with Office 365, whether it's integrated in your course online learning management, in your learning management system or not. But if it is, I think that's even better on the student side of it. And now, got 2 minutes. I was trying to land, and we got 2 extra minutes. So if you have any questions, feel free. You can either put them in the chat, or you can just open it up and talk to us if you have a microphone there. We'd love to hear from you. We have lots of ideas about stuff. There's lots of other things we use. These are just some of our most favorites, and they're ones that work well when you're using a learning management system such as D12, Brightspace. They've worked wonders with us, but they'll work, like I said, in Canvas, Moodle, whatever else you're using too.
We are hearing crickets, Karen.
Yeah. I'm not sure if we mentioned it or not, but ReadSpeaker that we talked about is already built into most of our ebooks, like through MindTap and that. It's also it's in a lot of things, and you don't even know it. You know there's capabilities, but you don't realize it's really that ReadSpeaker that's in there. And my students like the ebook, and they like having things read to them. They may try to read it, or they may read the summary, but they really like listening to it. Like you said, it helps them get across words they would stumble across. It helps them concentrate. They tell me it helps them concentrate, where they said it's very easy to get distracted when they're reading. But if they're listening to it, it's much easier to keep their attention. So I was amazed that it wasn't the people that I thought would come and tell me how great it was. It was just kind of what I thought of as my everyday adult students that said there's so much going on in their lives that they really appreciated this.
Well, we want to thank you for joining us, and hope that you, other than you, Karen, that you all stay warm. I think we have a cold weekend coming up, and a long weekend, so enjoy.
And we hope to see you all next summer at the newly rebranded, formerly known as Minnesota eLearning Summit. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Really appreciate the session.
Well, thank you for attending.